The woman who destroyed my life just texted me 2 weeks before my wedding. So, I'm Jasper, and I'm getting married in 2 weeks to the most incredible woman I've ever met. Julia is a corporate attorney. She's brilliant. She's got this quiet confidence that just grounds me. And honestly, I never thought I'd find someone like her after what happened 6 years ago. But here's why I'm posting. 3 days ago, my ex-fiancée Ellie sent me a text message completely out of nowhere. Just seeing her name pop up on my phone made my chest tight. The message said, "Jasper, I need to see you one last time, please. Everything isn't what you think it was." I haven't heard from this woman in 6 years, not a single word, and there's a damn good reason for that. 6 years ago, Ellie and I were supposed to get married. Everything was ready. The venue was paid for, my suit was hanging in the closet, her dress was perfect, our families were flying in. We'd been together for 4 years, and I thought I knew her better than anyone. I was wrong. The night before our wedding, I realized I'd forgotten to pick up the backup wedding band. I'd been staying at a hotel with my groomsmen, but the ring was still at the place Ellie and I had shared. No big deal, right? I just swing by, grab it, and head back. I used my key to get in around 10 p.m. The lights were on. I figured Ellie was doing some last-minute prep with her bridesmaids or something. I walked down the hallway toward our bedroom, and that's when I heard it, her laugh. But not her normal laugh. This breathy, intimate sound I thought was just for me. I opened the bedroom door. Ellie was in our bed with my half-brother, Victor. They weren't just caught in a moment. This wasn't the first time. I could see it in their faces when they saw me. Not just shock, but resignation, like they'd known this was coming eventually. I didn't yell. I didn't throw things. I just stood there for what felt like an hour, but was probably 30 seconds. Victor started saying something. I don't even remember what. Ellie pulled the sheet up and started crying, saying my name over and over. Then Ellie said the one thing I'll never forget, the only words from that entire night that are burned into my memory. She looked at me with tears streaming down her face and said, "Jasper, I'm so sorry, but I never wanted to marry you. I wanted him. I've always wanted him." The wedding was tomorrow, and she was telling me I was never supposed to be the groom. I turned around and left. Didn't have it in me to stay and hear whatever excuse they were about to make. By midnight, I'd called the venue and canceled everything. By 2 a.m., I'd sent a mass email to everyone invited explaining the wedding was off due to unforeseen circumstances and that I'd handle any travel reimbursements they needed. By 6 a.m., I'd packed 2 suitcases, and by noon the next day, what would have been my wedding day, I was in my car driving to another city 3 hours away, where I had a college buddy who'd been begging me to start a business with him. I never spoke to Ellie again. I blocked her on everything. I cut Victor out of my life completely, which meant I also distanced myself from my dad, since Victor was his golden child from his second marriage. I left behind friends, my apartment, my job, everything. I just needed to get away from the wreckage. The first year was hell. I won't sugarcoat it. I worked 18-hour days on our tech startup, because when I stopped working, I started thinking about where things went wrong, when the affair started, how someone I trusted could do that to me. Questions I had no answers to. But somewhere around year 2, things started clicking. Our construction project management software actually solved real problems. By year 3, we made it onto the state's top 10 fastest growing companies list. By year 4, I bought out my partner's share and expanded to 3 offices. And somewhere along the way, they just started to fade into the back of my mind. That's when I met Julia. She was representing a client in a contract dispute with one of my subcontractors. She was fierce in that conference room, didn't let me slide on a single detail. After we settled, I asked her to dinner. She said no. I asked again 2 weeks later. She said no again. The third time, she finally agreed, but told me later she only agreed because I'd shown appropriate persistence without being creepy about it. We've been together 2 years now. She knows everything about Ellie and Victor. She's seen me on the bad days when the anniversary of that night rolls around and I get quiet. She's never pushed me to forgive or move on in some therapeutic way. She just exists beside me as this strong, steady force.
2 months ago, I proposed. She said yes. We've got a small wedding planned, just close friends, no family drama, nothing elaborate, just us choosing each other clearly and intentionally. And then Ellie's text showed up. I showed it to Julia because we don't keep things from each other. I expected her to tell me to delete it and block the number. Instead, she read it twice, looked at me and said, "If you're going to meet her, then meet her properly, on your terms. Close that door the way it should have been closed." So now I'm here asking you guys, do I meet with Ellie? What could she possibly have to say after 6 years? Part of me wants to ignore it completely. I already buried all of it once. I don't know if I have it in me to dig it back up. But another part, the part that's about to marry someone new, wonders if Julia's right. Maybe I need to hear whatever excuse Ellie has and reject it to her face so there's no question left. What would you do? Edit. Holy hell, this blew up. I'm reading through all your comments now to answer some common questions. Yes, Victor was at my apartment for a reason. He had keys. I'd given him a spare set months earlier when he was between places and needed somewhere to crash occasionally. I'm aware now how stupid that was. Yes, my dad took Victor's side initially, said I was overreacting and that boys will be boys or some garbage. We haven't spoken much since. No, I don't know what happened to Ellie and Victor after I left. I cut them both out completely. Update 1. 4 days later. Hey everyone, Jasper here again. First off, thank you for all the support on my original post. The consensus seemed to be, if I'm going to do this, do it right. Don't let Ellie dictate terms. Don't meet her alone. Don't let her rewrite history. Julia and I talked for hours after I posted. She's got this way of cutting through the emotional noise and seeing things clearly. She said, "Look, this woman blew up your life the night before your wedding. You don't owe her anything, not even a response. But if some part of you needs to close this chapter before we start ours, then I'm not going to stand in the way. I just refuse to let you do it in a way that gives her any leverage." That's when we came up with the plan. I texted Ellie back yesterday morning. "I'll meet you tomorrow, 7 p.m. at the Edison Lounge downtown. Come alone." The Edison is this upscale cocktail bar in the financial district, public, professional, and nowhere close to anywhere we used to go together. Well lit, obvious, no nostalgia, no emotional manipulation. What I didn't tell her was that I wouldn't be alone either. Julia insisted on coming. She said, and I quote, "I'm not coming to defend you or fight your battles. I'm coming because I'm your future, and she needs to see that clearly." So yesterday evening, we showed up at the Edison at 6:45 p.m. Julia looked absolutely stunning in a charcoal suit, hair pulled back, every inch the successful attorney. We took a large corner booth with good sight lines to the entrance. The plan was simple. I'd talk to Ellie, but I'd have my people visible at the same table. No private heart-to-heart, no chance for her to cry and manipulate me in some dark corner. Ellie showed up at 7:03 p.m. I barely recognized her at first. She looked diminished. 6 years ago, she was always put together, confident, vibrant. The woman who walked through the door looked like she'd aged a decade. Her clothes were nice, but not the designer brand she used to favor. No engagement ring, no wedding band. Her hair was different, but it was her eyes that got me. They had this desperate, hollow look. She saw me immediately, then saw Julia. Her face fell. She walked over slowly, clutching her purse like a shield. "Jasper," she said quietly, I didn't realize you'd bring other people. You said you needed to talk to me, so talk. This is Julia, my fiancée." Julia nodded politely but didn't extend her hand. Ellie looked at her for a long moment, and I could see something crumble in her expression. Could we talk privately?" Ellie asked, her voice shaking. "No," I said, not aggressively, just firmly. "Whatever you have to say, you can say here."
Ellie looked at Julia again, then back at me. "Victor and I, it wasn't supposed to happen. It just... Don't," I said, holding up a hand, "do not tell me it just happened. I saw you in our bed the night before our wedding. There were wine glasses. You two were having a date night in our apartment. Don't insult my intelligence by pretending it was a moment of weakness." The tears came harder now. "You're right, it wasn't the first time. It had been going on for 3 months. But Jasper, you have to understand." "I don't have to understand anything," I said. "What I understand is that you betrayed me with my own brother while planning to marry me. You let me pay for a wedding, you let my family fly in, you let me believe we had a future, and then you destroyed it all." "I know," she said loudly, then lowered her voice when people looked over. "I know what I did, and I've paid for it, Jasper. God, have I paid for it." That's when Julia spoke up. "Paid for it? How exactly? By having to face consequences for your own actions?" Ellie shot her a look, then looked back at me. "Victor left me after you did, and everything blew up. He told me he never meant for things to get so serious and that he wasn't ready to settle down. I lost my job because people in our social circle found out what happened. Most of our friends took your side. My own parents barely speak to me." I was hearing all that, and I felt nothing. I thought I'd feel satisfaction or vindication, but I just felt hollow. "And what does that have to do with me?" "I made a mistake," she whispered. "I've spent 6 years regretting it. I've been in therapy, I've worked on myself, I've tried to understand why I sabotaged something good, and I needed you to know that I'm sorry, that I understand what I destroyed, and that I hope—" "You hope what?" Julia spoke again, her voice sharp and controlled. "That you'll forgive you so you can feel better about yourself." Ellie's eyes widened. "I just wanted closure." "No," Julia said, leaning forward slightly. "You wanted absolution. There's a difference. You want Jasper to tell you it's okay, that you're not a bad person, that everyone makes mistakes, but that's not his job. He's not your therapist, and he's not your priest." I reached over and put my hand on Julia's, a silent thank you. Then I looked at Ellie directly. "You want me to say something that makes you feel less guilty?" I said. "But I can't do that. What you did 6 years ago changed the entire trajectory of my life. I left everything behind. I rebuilt from scratch. And honestly, I'm better for it now. The life I have, the business I built, the woman I'm about to marry, none of that would have happened if you hadn't done what you did." Ellie's face crumpled. "So you're saying you're glad it happened?" "I'm saying I've moved on," I replied completely. "I don't think about you anymore. I don't wonder what if. I don't carry around anger or hatred. You're nothing to me now. And that's not me being cruel. That's just the truth." "Jasper, please." "Thank you for coming," I said, standing up. "I mean that. I think I needed to see you one more time to realize how completely over this I am. But this is goodbye, Ellie. For real this time." Julia stood up beside me, then turned to Ellie with a look that could cut glass. "From this point forward, you do not contact Jasper again. Not for closure, not for apologies, not for anything. We're getting married in 10 days, and you are not going to be part of our lives in any capacity. Are we clear?" Ellie just nodded, tears streaming down her face. We left her sitting there. The drive home was quiet. Julia held my hand the whole way. When we got back to our place, we poured us both a whiskey and sat on the couch. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Lighter," I admitted, like I'd just put down something I didn't know I was still carrying. She smiled and kissed my forehead. "Good. Now let's get married and never think about her again." "We're getting married next Saturday. I'll update you guys after the wedding, assuming nothing else crazy happens between now and then." Edit: some people are asking if Victor tried to reach out too. Yeah, about an hour after I got home, I got a text from an unknown number. Update 2, 6 days later. I didn't think I'd need to post again so soon, but the situation with Ellie apparently wasn't as finished as I thought. After our meeting at the Edison, I figured that was it. Clean break, door closed, moving forward. But 2 days later, things got complicated in a way I didn't expect. My dad called. For context, my father and I have barely spoken in 6 years. When everything happened with Ellie and Victor, he didn't hesitate to take Victor's side completely.
He told me I was overreacting, that these things happen, and that I needed to be the bigger man and work it out with family. When he found out I was leaving the city, he said I was running away from my problems. We've exchanged maybe 10 words total since then. Awkward text messages on birthdays and holidays. Nothing substantial. So when his name appeared on my caller ID, I almost didn't answer. But Julia was sitting next to me, and this probably sounds stupid. I didn't want her to think I was running away from him. "Jasper," my dad said when I picked up. His voice sounded tired. "Victor told me you met with Ellie last week." I kept my voice neutral. "And?" "He's really struggling right now. He's asking if you'd be willing to talk to him. He wants to apologize, try to make things right before your wedding so the whole family can be there to congratulate you." I actually laughed. Not a mean laugh, just genuinely incredulous. "You're calling me to advocate for Victor? The same Victor who slept with my fiancée the night before my wedding?" He let out this long, heavy sigh, like he was forcing himself to remain patient with someone being unreasonable. "That's a long time ago, son. People make mistakes. He's family." "No," I said flatly. "He stopped being family the moment he betrayed me, and you stopped being much of a father when you took his side." There was a long silence then. "That's not fair. I was trying to hold the family together. By asking me to forgive the unforgivable? By telling me to get over it? Dad, you made your choice 6 years ago, and I made mine. I left. I built a new life. I'm getting married in 4 days to a woman who actually respects me. Victor and his apology can go to hell." "Jasper." "No," I cut him off. "I'm done. Do not call me again to advocate for Victor. Do not even think about bringing him to my wedding. Actually, you know what? You aren't invited anyway. This conversation is over." I hung up. Julia squeezed my hand. "I'm proud of you," she said quietly. "But here's where it gets messier. Yesterday afternoon, I got a call from my best friend from the business, Michael. He knows what happened 6 years ago. He sounded pissed. "Dude, you need to know something. Ellie showed up at my office." Apparently, Ellie had somehow figured out where Michael works and came by to express some concerns to him. She told Michael that she was worried about Jasper and she thought I was rushing into marriage without processing my trauma from what happened. She asked Michael to talk some sense into me and suggested I should postpone the wedding to make sure I'm doing this for the right reasons. Michael told her to leave immediately or he'd call security, but the audacity of it blew my mind. That's when Julia made an executive decision. She's got connections through her law firm, and she drafted a cease and desist letter that was delivered to Ellie yesterday evening. The letter essentially states that any further contact with me, my fiancé, or any of our friends or associates will be considered harassment and will result in legal action. Julia didn't ask me first, she just did it. When I asked her why, she said, "Because you're too nice to do it yourself, and this woman clearly doesn't understand what no means." I married the right person. This morning, I got a long email from Victor. I didn't read most of it, just skimmed enough to get the gist. He's apparently engaged now, poor whoever that girl is, and wanted to clear the air before his own wedding. He wrote about how he's grown as a person and how he understands what he did was wrong. He said Ellie reached out to him after seeing me, and she's in a bad place mentally. Julia and I went for a long walk tonight. She asked me if I was worried about Ellie or Victor doing something dramatic at the wedding. Honestly, a small part of me is, but the venue is at a private estate, and we've got a guest list that's strictly controlled. Security knows not to let anyone in who's not on the list. Ellie can send all the messages she wants, Victor can write all the apology emails he wants, my dad can call and guilt trip me about family. None of it matters anymore because I've already moved on. I'll post one final update after the wedding, assuming I have time between the honeymoon and getting back to real life. Thanks for sticking with me through this. Reddit edit. A lot of you are asking about my mom. She passed away when I was 12, which is why my dad remarried and I ended up with Victor as a half-brother. Some of you are asking if any family will be at the wedding. Julia's parents and sister will be there. They're great people. No one from my side, and I'm okay with that. Final update.
12 days later. So, I'm married, officially and happily. The wedding happened last Saturday. It was perfect. Julia looked absolutely incredible, the weather cooperated, and nobody from my past showed up to cause drama. We're back from a short honeymoon in Colorado, and I promised I'd give you guys one last update to close this story out. The day before the wedding, I did get one final text from an unknown number. Just 3 words. "I'm sorry, Jasper." I'm assuming it was Ellie, since the number was blocked after Julia's cease and desist. I deleted it without responding. The wedding itself was everything I didn't have 6 years ago. Simple, intentional, and full of people who genuinely wanted to be there. My best man, Michael, gave a speech about how I rebuilt myself from ashes like a phoenix in a business suit. Julia's sister cried. I almost did too. During our first dance, Julia whispered to me, "No regrets?" I knew what she was asking, not about marrying her, but about everything that led us here. "None," I said, and I meant it. A lot of people told me I needed to forgive Ellie and Victor to move on or find peace, but I don't think that's true. What they did was unforgivable, and I'm not obligated to absolve them to make them feel better about themselves. What I did instead was build something new. I chose to invest my energy into creating a life that didn't include them rather than spending years being angry about what they destroyed. As for where everyone ended up, I haven't heard from Ellie since the text the day before my wedding. Julia's cease and desist apparently did its job. Through mutual acquaintances, I heard she moved back to her hometown about 3 hours away. She's working retail now, a far cry from the director position she had 6 years ago. I hope she gets her life together, but it's not my concern anymore. As for Victor, I did hear from a cousin that his engagement fell apart after his fiancée found out about what happened with Ellie and me, and apparently Victor lost his job at Dad's company after they had a falling out about something. Last I heard, he moved 2 states away to start over. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Karma is a hell of a thing. I haven't spoken to my dad since that last phone call. A few days after the wedding, he sent a card in the mail. No apology, just "Congratulations on your marriage," with his signature. I threw it away. My cousin told me Dad's not doing well. Victor's departure hit him hard, and apparently he finally admitted to the family that maybe I backed the wrong son. Too late, too little. He's alone now, except for his second wife, who I've heard isn't thrilled about how everything went down. Maybe someday we'll talk, but I'm not holding my breath. Julia is currently asleep on the couch next to me as I type this, exhausted from unpacking and catching up on work after the honeymoon. She's got case files spread across the coffee table, her reading glasses are crooked on her face, and she's snoring slightly. I've never been more certain about anything in my life than I am about this choice. That's it. That's the end of the story. Thanks for everything, Reddit. It's been real.